Well, hi, everybody. It's so great that we're all here together. I'm Renee Thornton with the Wild Sheep Foundation's Women Hunt program. We're here at the Warren Ranch for the HuntFish Podcast Summit of 2024. And, you know, some of us know each other and some of us don't know each other very well. And so before we kick off this great discussion, you know, we're a great group of ladies here together for this summit. It's a great chance for us to sit down, talk about hunting, talk about conservation, and our thoughts around that. So why don't each of you take a moment to just introduce yourselves and say a little something about each other.
Hi, ladies. I'm Janet Holcomb. I'm from Indiana, and this is my first time attending this event. I am the First Lady of Indiana. My husband is the governor, and we are in our 8th year, finishing our 2nd term. We're term limited, so come January, we'll have something new in store, but we don't know what it is yet.
Hi, I'm Danny Henderson. I'm from Littleton, Colorado, and I was fortunate enough to be chosen to be in the inaugural 2021 class of Women Hunt. So I am a new hunter, only been hunting for a couple of years, so I'm still learning, but also really excited about it and want to share it with other people.
Hi, I'm Grayson Highfield. I was chosen just last year for the 3rd class of Women Hunt in 2023. So very new hunter, and really excited to see where it takes me.
I'm Mallory Woodyard. I'm part of, I guess you could say, staff, I guess. My dad's one of the cooks, so, you know, we're just here helping out and learning as much as we can from the kitchen. So,
I'm Avery Woodyard, and we're sisters, and so I'm here with my dad too, and we've helped last year and this year, so, and we both hunt occasionally, so.
And I am Kat Hunter. I was class of 22, Women Hunt, and I have found myself very passionate about conservation and paying it forward, so I find myself volunteering with different nonprofits in the conservation space.
Hi, y'all. My name is Michaela Killam. I'm from Pleasanton, Texas. I work for Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, and I do education on wildlife damage management.
Hi, I'm Sue Tidwell. I am the author of Cries of the Savannah. I am not a hunter yet, although I may be coming closer to that here in the future, and I just passed my hunter safety course. But my whole goal is trying to have people understand how important hunting is to Africa and Africa's people and Africa's wildlife.
Awesome. Okay, so this is going to be a great conversation then, lots of diversity and experience. So why don't we just start talking, for those who want to share, about what your motivations were to even consider hunting or starting to hunt. And if you're not an active hunter, then what are your thoughts around, why are you supportive of hunting would be, I guess, maybe the way to think about it. So whoever wants to kickstart that off.
I can start that. So I started hunting when I was about 18 years old. Growing up, it had been something that if I had wanted to, my parents would have made that an option, but we were more into fishing. And so I got to college with no real strong opinions one way or the other, but my degree is in wildlife and fishery sciences. And so in just the first semester of going through my courses, I gained an understanding, just looking back on it, it's a small understanding of how important hunting was to conservation. And so personally, I felt that it was important to understand it. So I went back home, told my parents that I wanted to get involved in it. And so my mom and my grandma actually took me out on my first deer hunt.
That's awesome.
I grew up in a hunting family, so it wasn't that I was against hunting, but I definitely did not understand the conservation value of hunting till more recently, when I questioned the hunting of certain animals in Africa, and then came to a whole different understanding when I had boots on the ground, and that led to my book, Cries of the Savannah. It instigated a lot of research because I had to make sure of what I was learning, and I had no idea the conservation value of hunting even in our own country. So that journey led me to conservation in North America as well, and so I understand it much better now than I used to. We take a lot of it for granted here in America. The species we have is a lot to thank for hunting, and I never gave them that credit. I just took it for granted until just a few years ago.
So my motivation for hunting was to pass it on to my daughter. I have a 13-year-old Delilah. She is my little sidekick, goes with me everywhere. And I wanted to pass that on to her because she had expressed interest in it. And of course, her dad could show her, but how cool would it be for her mom too? And also harvesting my own protein because there's so much garbage today.
So I have a little bit of a strange background. I was a vegetarian for almost 20 years of my life, and grew up in a family that ate mainly plant-based vegan vegetarian, and I decided if I was going to eat meat, I was going to learn to harvest it myself. And I applied to Women Hunt, and here we are. I also think it's one of the cleanest, most ethical ways you can harvest your food, cleanest way you can sustain your body. So, yeah.
I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to put a little bit of a personal spin on it, I guess. Prior to my husband taking office, I have always been the breadwinner in our family. And I had my own business doing political fundraising and then worked for my family's manufacturing business for almost 10 years before we assumed these roles. And once we took office and my husband became governor, I felt very minimized as a woman and as as a woman and as a human being, I guess. One of the things that hunting has given me is something that is all my own, and something that I've worked very hard at, and that I'm very proud of. I've completed 2 sheep hunts, and they are excruciatingly difficult, but I love the challenge. That has also given me a opportunity. It's created new dreams for me, and it's given me this new motivation that I am so excited about. And it's something that drives me constantly to stay in shape, take care of myself, make sure I'm getting enough sleep, which helps all facets of your life, right? So it's just been really transformative in my life. Really exciting.
I know we were talking last night, and the part I found very interesting was your husband is not a hunter. So you tackled this really on your own, and I think that is incredible.
Yes, he doesn't hunt, he doesn't shoot. He calls himself an indoorsman. So I'm working on that. But I have some really dear friends who have mentored me and supported me and encouraged me in this journey. And it's something that, again, it's just all my own.
Yeah.
I did not grow up in a hunting fishing. We did fish, but I didn't grow up in a hunting family. And my husband, many years ago, when our children were growing up, decided that he wanted to learn to hunt. So he did, but I always only had a supporting role in it. But I loved that. So for many, many years, I organized gear, got kids' schedules, got everybody, helped get them out shooting and practicing. And then I finally decided, once everyone's kind of up, that I wanted to try to hunt. So then I was very fortunate I came across the Women Hunt program and felt that this is my opportunity to try. And it's been phenomenal, exceeded expectations, and really, really excited about it.
So I'm only 14 years old, but my dad and we have 2 older siblings above us, and we've all hunted. Our dad's always just taken us dove hunting, duck hunting, whatnot. And I wouldn't say that, I do it very often. But after hearing what y'all have said, just a little of what y'all said, I would really love to go out there and hunt some more and go on, bigger hunts. Once I'm older, probably, but still. But I'd still, love to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah, like she said, we always grew up hunting. She was the baby, so she never got to go out as much as all the rest of us. But, my older siblings are still a pretty large age gap, so, like, there's 2 and 2. But growing up, I got to see my older 2 siblings go out and do more stuff with my dad, and I was like, what the heck? Like, why don't I get to go? And my dad would never take me deer hunting because he always said I was too loud. So I was like, oh, gosh. So I kind of had to grow up to get that experience. But I will say that Texas Brigades, and I know that some of y'all have heard of it, Cat's Gone, that really got me more involved because my dad went as an adult leader, and then he got really involved in it. And so I was like, well, I guess like that's my way in. Like with my dad even, like he'll take me maybe if I get involved with Brigades, and Brigades has helped me so much. And like within our family, just really exploring that part of agriculture and all that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Okay, so I heard a few common themes, around conservation values with hunting, food source, well-being, wellness, connection with family members who hunt, personal empowerment and identity. I think these are great topics. I think we should dive in a little bit more. So we're going to maybe segue a little bit then to, if you guys could talk a little bit, maybe I'll just share, like for myself, one of the things I really love about becoming a hunter and making that choice and stepping out on my own and figuring it out is how much it pushed me to grow and allowed me to develop in ways I could have never imagined, and led me to making choices. I would step outside of my comfort zone all the time in order to make things happen or find opportunities, and then suddenly it led to a whole different sort of leadership role I wouldn't have anticipated, right? So, I think that we all have probably something to talk about when it comes to how these choices have transformed us maybe, or even if not something as dramatic as a transformation, led to some sort of growth. So do you guys feel comfortable talking a little bit about that, where that took you guys? Yeah? Okay.
I can kind of start off on that note, and with my introduction. The reason I wanted to start hunting was for sourcing protein and sharing with my daughter, and that was my focus. I've hunted one time since class of 2022 graduated, and I am totally okay with that because it sparked that passion for conservation and volunteering with brigades and working with families. I know Michael with Fishing's Future really wants to get families outdoors and in that space. And I love the outdoors. I feel comfortable. It's great. I think we need more of it. People are so disconnected. So that was kind of a shock for me. The transition from wanting to hunt and being now so in depth with wanting to like pass it on and share it and tell anybody who will listen. So that's kind of where I am at. Yeah, sure.
Hope I don't lose my train of thought. Well, okay, so, oh gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. But so I'm usually pretty good one-on-one with people, but I get intimidated in a bunch of people or around a bunch of people I know. And because of what I learned in Africa and then from the study of what I learned about conservation in North America, it has made me have to step outside my comfort zone into the author world and the hunting industry world, and with people that are amazing and so welcoming. But it's still been intimidating at times, although I don't know why I feel like that, because everyone has just been so wonderful. But I think it has helped me to grow so much as a person because my passion is so strong to help people understand Africa and conservation in general, but my focus, I guess, is on Africa, and because so many people, there are so many misconceptions about conservation there and why hunting is important. So I'm trying so hard for the people and wildlife of Africa to help other people understand that. So because of my passion, it has made me do things that have been very difficult and make me step outside that comfort zone. So I think you can still contribute that all to hunting and growing from that. And I hope to continue to grow as I continue this journey.
So there's a lot of great things that I've gained from the ability to go hunt and being involved in that. But one of the things that I've really appreciated is the opportunities I've already had to pass that on. And just to clarify a couple of things that have come up, Texas Brigades is a program we have here in Texas. It's a youth leadership program, but they're species specific. And so every summer, the number of camps have been growing, but we have hundreds of kids in total come out to all of these camps. They learn about leadership, they learn about wildlife, but then some of the kids get to go on hunts afterwards. And so I've gotten to be a hunting guide for those events. And so I've gotten to work with youth and kind of show them this experience, teach them the conservation background behind it. And it has been so rewarding. And that's how I am an educator by trade. And I love learning about things so that I can teach them to other people. So even with hunting, that has been very full circle for me.
I think one of the things when I think about hunting is the community that I've developed around it, and I'm so grateful for those relationships because the people that are in my kind of inner circle of hunting friends, they are such a anchor for me. And most of them are guys. I am trying to recruit more women to our hunting group, but they're just good people, and I know I can count on them. And I wouldn't have those relationships without hunting, without fishing, without hiking, without the outdoors. So it's really wonderful to share those experiences with people that I care about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think just in terms of transformation, obviously my lifestyle was very different, going from eating mainly plant-based and just a different mindset around hunting. From what I grew up in, I didn't grow up in a community of hunters or fishermen or women. And it's a little bit intimidating to walk into a room and say, I'm a vegetarian in a room full of hunters, right? And there's always jokes, I think, made of, oh, well, we eat the vegetarians, right? I've heard that 1,000 times. But being able to kind of, walk into a room and say, no, but my mind's open, teach me, I want to learn. And, form a community from that has been really incredible. So.
Okay, so then maybe let's explore, what your personal reasons, what kind of speaks to you in your heart about wildlife conservation, and what are you involved in personally that supports wildlife conservation? And when I say about speaks to you, like in your heart, is that it can be a species or a group or an activity, it could be many different things. So, the things that resonate with you and why is that important for you in wildlife conservation, and then what you might be involved in. Whoever wants to start.
Okay, I've got the mic, so I'll go ahead and chime in on that. So for wildlife conservation long term, one thing that has become more and more apparent to me, and probably to all of you as well, is that for a large number of people, there's a huge disconnect between the life they live every day and the natural resources that are important to all of us. Whether for whatever reasons it's important to us, it's important. And so through experiences, through summer camps, through taking kids fishing, through all sorts of activities like that, just giving people the opportunity, even if I'm not, doing a whole lesson plan while we're there, but just giving them the opportunity to appreciate the outdoors. So taking a friend kayaking, taking a friend fishing, just having those positive outdoor experiences so that there is a personal investment for more people in the importance of conserving our natural resources.
I'm going to mention some things that, I have an interesting, unique platform, and as does my husband. During his time in office, we've made some really legacy changes and investments in the state. We have, a couple of years ago, set aside $180 million for the construction and development enhancing our trail system in the state. So we are over 4,000 miles now of trails in Indiana and constantly still growing that. I think that trails are so important because it's one of the first access points for for people to get out into nature. And so these are hiking, biking, walking, horseback riding, trails, and there is a network across the entire state. The goal was for every Hoosier to be within 5 miles of a trail. And we are close to getting there. So I'm something I'm really proud of. We are building a new state park inn in Indiana, and this is the first inn that has been constructed since 1939. There are plans for another second inn in the coming years. Next month, we will plant the 1 millionth tree since we have been in office. That was set as a priority many years ago, and I've been out numerous times helping reach that goal. So I'm really excited to be there on that day when we plant that 1 millionth tree. And I really enjoy constantly working with our Department of Natural Resources. I've worked to promote venison donation, which is processed and distributed to food banks across the state, and just love being a champion for conservation, for getting people outdoors, and just enjoying this beautiful way of life.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Well, I just think as far as why we want to be out there, wild places, they touch your soul. There's just no other way to say it. It cannot be replaced by any amount of money or splendor or anything else. The wild just hits you in a certain way. And a lot of times we maybe take that for granted here. We expect those animals to always be here forever. But unless people become more connected, they might like them from their TV and watch shows, but it's not the same as being in nature and experience it in that way. And to relate that back to Africa, my passion, when you see these animals, it wakes you up a little bit, because it's, lions and leopards and elephants, things that we don't experience here. They're under threat. If the people who don't understand sustainable use and, proper wildlife management, they're under threat if we don't let people, local people, have a say in how the management of their life. I'm sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied. But the way their management is run, so local people must benefit from conservation, and I think that's anywhere. So, but I just think wild places touch your soul, and nothing else can replace that. So we need to do whatever we can to protect that.
Well, as far as animal specific, I am definitely forever a wild sheep lover. Since Women Hunt is sponsored by the Wild Sheep Foundation, I am active in the Texas Bighorn Society, so that's kind of where my heart is. And giving back to someone or an organization that's given so much to me. Life-changing program, and I feel like it's my duty to keep giving back.
What do you love about wild sheep?
Oh, what do I love about wild sheep? Just the majesty of them. You hear it all the time. I've lived in Texas my whole life and didn't even know we had bighorn sheep, which is wild and crazy. But, when you live in Houston, hundreds of miles away from where they live, it's not something that's on your mind or forefront or something you thought about. At least I didn't, so.
So conservation is important to me for several reasons. Like I said before, just the experiences that it gives, especially through my family. Going out hunting was just a way that you bond. So also brigades, it teaches conservation in kids, and just looking at our society these days, that has a big role. People my age, just looking around, it's sad, truly. So conservation is a way to, not only teach, but I'm young, but by the time I have kids and I'm an adult, I want my kids to be able to do the same. And so you have to be able to conserve the nature and God's beauty outside, and everything that he made. And so I think that just teaching people about it, conservation and everything, it's just so important. So.
You know, when I think about the group here, and I think about conservation, and you know, I always think about that disconnect that a lot of people have in understanding the importance that hunting plays in wildlife conservation. And then, you know, Sue, you have a particular passion and focus on the African landscape and how they manage wildlife on the continent and within their own countries. And, you know, the same applies for us here in North America. And, you know, my driver always is trying to get that word out about the North American model specifically. That's where I concentrate my energies, right? And informing myself and others about those 7 simple principles that really help our wildlife management professionals manage our resources, and helping people bridge that gap in understanding. And I know that for myself, when I started the journey, I wasn't aware of the North American model of wildlife conservation. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't really understand why or how hunting could play a positive role in conservation. I wanted to hunt to source my own meat. I knew we had an abundance of wildlife in my home province of Alberta. I wasn't concerned about impacting overall numbers, and I knew we had smart wildlife professionals to figure that out. But that's pretty much where my understanding stopped, right? And you know, and so I love how we're all talking about the same concepts from slightly different points of view, but you know, we need to bridge that gap. It is a kind of a confusing dichotomy for a lot of people, right? You know, that concept of hunting and conservation. So I'm really glad that, you know, we're a great diverse group of people and we're all tracking the same way. And I think for anybody listening, you know, I would encourage the listeners or the viewers of this roundtable to, if you're not familiar with the North American model, you know, just look it up online. It's easily accessible, and help open your mind or open somebody else's mind to at least having the conversation, right? Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about something a little more with a little bit more levity. Why don't we talk about some of either, like, maybe, you know, take it wherever you want to go. Maybe a fun hunt you've been on that you want to talk a little bit about, or even any hunt that you've been on that had something particularly remarkable about it that happened, or impactful, or you could go down the track of what your dream hunt might be, and you know, and if you're not yet a hunter, then talk about maybe something absolutely moving in another thing you've done in the outdoors, in something that is kind of related. So, yeah, who wants to kick that off? Grayson?
Well, I haven't been on a lot of hunts so far since I just started my journey in November, but my mentor he took me out on a lion hunt at the end of January, which was pretty incredible. And I know it was a very special and unique experience, just watching the dogs work and just how multifaceted that experience is and dynamic. None of us harvested something that, and we were in the car for about 6 hours together that morning, just looking for tracks. And I think the coolest part about that was honestly just learning how to track and learning lion behavior, learning the conditions in the environment that were ideal to find lions. They're so elusive. And so I think we kind of have this vision that there's not that many of them, but their populations they don't seem to be struggling. And just, you know, talking to my mentor and hearing someone who's been lion hunting his whole life, and he's treed hundreds of them and he's harvested one, which is it's kind of mind-blowing a little bit. But yeah, just being in the presence of this lion, you know, it was, honestly, he said it was the fastest lion hunt he's ever been on in his life. It took 6 hours to even find something, and it was a day-old track that we didn't think was going to lead us anywhere. But we set the dogs loose just for the heck of it, and within 30 minutes had a lion up a tree about 50 yards from the trucks, which is rare. But it was so cool, and just being in the presence of this mountain lion, because that was my first mountain lion, and just locking eyes on, with this beautiful animal was probably one of the coolest experiences I'll ever have. Oh yeah, my adrenaline was pumping. My mentor was laughing at me because I had like my good camera in my backpack, and I went to struggle to take it out, and he looked at me and he was like, just breathe for a second, just, it's okay, it's not going anywhere, it's in the tree. But there was just something so amazing about it, and I was so excited. So it was so cool. That's cool. Yeah.
Well, really quick, like I mentioned before, I've only been on one hunt. It was a whitetail buck, which was incredible. But dreams are free, and I like to dream big. So if I have a dream hunt, I would say it would be a mid-Asian ibex. I think the terrain that they live in and just the animal itself is so incredibly beautiful. But if I have to hunt in Texas, if I have to keep my dreams local, it would definitely be axis, which are very delicious. And it would be aoudad, because they are invasive. They're not native to Texas, and I think they're also really cool looking little dudes.
So I think the hunts that I've been on mostly would be bird hunting, but if I had to say that I'd want to go hunting, it'd probably be elk hunting. And I've also never, I hope so. I've also never gone bow hunting, but I do have a bow that I've really got to practice with if I want to go bow hunting. But I would love to shoot an elk with a bow, because the videos that I've seen are just amazing, and I would love to do that. So
If we're talking about favorite hunts, I wouldn't even call this a hunt. It was this guy that lives in our town. He's like an older man, and he is a friend of my dad's, and he was saying that like he had this massive buck on his property that he wanted me to shoot. He was like, I want you to come and shoot this buck. I was like, okay, like I'd love to. And so I go over there, and we had been going over there for like a week, and what was funny, like why I wouldn't call this a hunt, is because we were literally just sitting in his living room. He had his house looking over into this field that he had with this feeder, and you could just see, like, he had his rifle that he was letting me use on his, like, front porch, and we were just watching a football game and visiting and watching for this buck, and, like, it was unsuccessful. That buck did not come out that night, but it was just, like, getting to visit with this guy and, like, just, like, looking at God's beauty, like, right in front of us, just watching this buck, watching a football game, you know? It was just, like, so fun and so lighthearted, but then also just, like, the seriousness and somberness to it that I just loved. So, anyways, yeah.
Just coming to hunting as a little bit older lady, I've been on 2 elk and deer hunts with my husband. We live in Colorado, so they're very challenging hunts. They're at high elevation. They're through the mountains. You have to go over ridges. There's a lot of prep work. And I will tell you, we were not successful as far as harvesting an animal, but unbelievable experience with my husband, and realized, yes, I can keep up with the military Air Force guy, because that was, I will say that was my biggest hesitation to starting to hunt. When I got the desire and wanted to, I just didn't really want to with my husband, and not in a bad way. It's just he had his hunting buddies, he had his set way, and I didn't want to hold him back or impede. And so the women hunt experience really helped me with that. It taught me a lot of the skills you need to hunt, and it gave me the confidence to try. And it just, the way things worked out, it ended up working best to hunt with my husband, and it actually has been phenomenal, and super excited to go for the next time. So my dream hunt is just to get a elk, not just, that's pretty fantastic, and a mule deer, and super excited about it.
So I'm going to do a little bit of a different take on favorite hunt. Most of my hunting experience has been for white-tailed deer in Texas, and the motivation, is ultimately for management. We have a certain number of deer we need to take off that property every year to keep the population at a healthy level. But for me, personally, taking that animal, I love to cook with wild game. And so this past year, I figured out how to cook a roast and make shredded taco meat in the crock pot, and I made gorditas from scratch, and it just all came together in like the most amazing meal, and I knew where everything came from, and I know it's in the kitchen, not in the field, but my gosh, I was so excited about it all coming together and actually working correctly.
I think that's a great way to look at this question, because for so many of us, the reason why we hunt is in part for that food source. And it can be challenging when you're trying to figure out if you're not, familiar with how to prepare wild game, and what a great way to look at that. Thanks for sharing that.
Happy to.
Well, what I love about really every hunt is just the adventure of it. Because even though I have not pulled a trigger or wouldn't call myself a hunter yet, I go with my husband regularly. Yeah. And I love that. I love being in the backcountry of Idaho or Africa or wherever we would be. And you never know what's around the next corner. And there's that pride, even though I'm not pulling the trigger, so to speak, I'm still climbing those mountains. I'm still being quiet. I'm still sneaking up on that animal. So I'm still a part of it, and I'm still experiencing what he's experiencing without doing that final step. Yeah. And as far as tracking goes, oh my gosh, like in Africa, watching the trackers work, I could follow them all day long and I wouldn't even have to see an animal. They are just so amazing. It's just so impressive. And then to talk a little bit about food, one of the most, of course we, eat everything you harvest here, but in Africa, that's one of the big concerns is that, I'm not taking home the meat. Well, I can tell you none of the meat in Africa goes to waste. And when we went to Mozambique our last time, and Rick didn't have a hippo in his budget, but he was croc hunting, and again, sometimes when I say, yeah, you plan everything, I'll just go, I did not know what I was getting myself into, because I did not know the Zambezi River was like 6 to 7 to 8 miles across with currents and islands, and anyway, we had to get in this little teeny boat and go out to Croc and Hippo-filled river. So it was terrifying. Wow. But I did it because, it was adventure, but it was adventure I wasn't quite ready for. But when we got back to the shore every night, we had so many people waiting for us, kids just lined up on the beaches waiting for our boat to come back, hoping we had croc meat and hoping we had meat. And and we had to walk about a mile to get to our Jeep. So we had this whole entourage, and it was just, it touches your heart when you have all these little kids who just don't have much, and the adults too. And but I told Rick, it's not on our budget, but you need to take a hippo. You need to take a management hippo, because in certain areas you can take a management animal, which means you get to bring none of the animal home. It's simply they allot so many just for the people. And so I told Rick, you have to take one because I'm giving these people meat. Well, I'm going to give them meat through you. So he did take a hippo. They heard the shot, the villagers come running down to the shore, and we told them what happened. The little boy ran off and to tell the family, tell the villagers going to be meat tonight. The villagers came and they had to drag the hippo to the island to harvest it. All the dugout canoes started coming in to harvest the meat, cut it up and share it. Then we went back to and that's moving enough, watching all that. And then we went back to the croc bait, sitting in our blind, and I started hearing drums going up and down the river. And I said to our PH, what is going on? He says, they're letting the other villages know that there's meat tonight, come get meat. So they were, they'd drum here, and then you'd hear the drum further up, and then you'd hear the drumming further up, and then you'd hear it down. And so they were sharing that meat. That was getting spread far and wide. So that's just one of the most touching. I mean, there's so much things about hunting. There's adventure, there's excitement, there's a feeling of self-pride, and then there's that too of harvesting your own meat for either yourself or for other people.
I was hearing all these stories. It reminds me of a video that is posted on the HuntFish Podcast Instagram. It was you speaking 2 years ago about how killing is the worst part. It's not what it's about. And hearing all of these different stories, nobody has said, oh my gosh, I just love murdering that animal. It's been about experiences and feeding and eating and camaraderie. And you even spoke on that before. And I think that is that says a lot. I know social media and people who are not in tune to or on our side, I guess you could say, think we're just mad killers. And not one of us has expressed that kind of sentiment.
Hunters hunt to hunt, not to kill. Say it again. That's what I say. Hunters hunt to have hunted, not to kill. For the,
I will add the doll ram that I harvested in 2022 was 14 years old at the very, very, very end of his life. His body condition still looked outwardly very good, but when we butchered him, his teeth were worn down to the gum line and he had no fat. So this hunt occurred in August, and winter, which reaches regularly 50 below in the Yukon, was coming soon. And so it was a good hunt. It was a good end to his life. And I'm glad that I found that animal, because it was the right thing. He was there, and I was there, and I don't know. I think sometimes things are almost meant to happen that way. So, yeah.
That's a really good point about the different kinds of harvests there can be. Sometimes there's harvests to feed a family, or a village. Sometimes there's harvests that are selective in nature, like Janet just described, because taking an old male who's at the point in their life where they're not going to survive that winter. I mean, what a brutal death that would have been, right? So thanks for sharing that, Janet, and good perspective. I just realized, too, when we were talking a little earlier about conservation, Sue, and I said, for those listening who may not be familiar with the North American model, to, look it up and take a look at it. But another thing, if you want to have a better understanding about conservation models that are used on the African continent, I would encourage anybody to pick up Sue's book, Cries of the Savannah, because it's a wonderfully balanced examination of conservation in Africa, and would, I think, open a lot of people's eyes to what the reality of that it looks like. So. Yeah. Some of you have been talking about a few things that kind of have me thinking about another topic. So what I often hear from women who want to start hunting, or have started hunting, and share a little bit about their story with me is, barriers to entry, right? And some of the things that cause women to hesitate to start hunting, or even maybe they dove in but faced challenges. And I think it might be really positive for the women who are listening to this, whether they're young women or older women, whatever, to hear from each of you, if you have anything to share with them about something that you did that worked, or why they don't need to be terrified about the concept of hunting, or anything at all that is positive to share with them to help them make that leap.
I think something that stood out to me when we were in Texas at the FTW Ranch for Women Hunt last year was saying again and again that women are the fastest growing sector of this hunting and fishing and sportsmen's industry, right? And I think there's just such a growing community here, and I would encourage people to not be afraid to reach out to those women, because I think we would all welcome them in with open arms, right? And I think, women need spaces in which they feel encouraged and supported by other women. And I think that's what we're building here. So I know it can be intimidating. I've worked in male-dominated fields my whole life. But I think that there are a lot of really encouraging men, but also find that community of women. Seek it out, because we're all here and ready to invite other women in.
And I want to tell ladies that want to get started too that I think you will be surprised at how much hunters will want to help you, whether it be male or female. One of the thing that hunters take the most pride in, you can see once you get to know hunters, is just the fact that how much they love sharing what they do and what they love. And they love taking someone new into the field. They love sharing that passion. And I can tell you from watching hunters, they are way more excited when somebody else is successful with a hunt than when they own themselves. And hunters will spend tons of time in the woods with somebody if they know their heart is into it and want to learn. And that they're spending tons of time with no inkling that they're even ever going to pull the trigger. They're going to let that new person have the opportunity if it comes up. So there are definitely a lot of women's groups out there you should reach out to. Women Hunts is one of them, and then there's others too. But also, if you don't have any nearby, check the males in your area because they will help you too, and they love to see new hunters come into the field.
So this might be a more superficial take on this very important topic, but just in a short amount of time, you can see that women have grown and have become a more important part of this industry. My mom grew up hunting, and she told me that the camo she wore was not designed for women. She was wearing her dad's old camo, she was wearing boys' size camo, and if you just look at the equipment and the resources and the clothing available for women today in natural resources, it's changed just since I've been in this industry. And it is so exciting to see that we have so many choices, so many things that are custom tailored to work well for us and for our bodies. And so just looking at that alone, you can see that women are making a space in this industry and it's growing.
Getting started, I knew that like as a girl, I would stick out like a sore thumb because there were so many men around me. And like I was so afraid to like miss or fail or like miss the animal that I'd be shooting at. And I didn't want to do that because if I was already sticking out, I didn't want to be like, oh gosh, all these people are watching me and I just missed or I just messed up or something like that. And so then I had to like take that jump and just be like, okay, well, I got to go for the experience and I got to go to get better. And so that I can grow as a person and as a hunter. So I think just like not being afraid to mess up.
I'd like to add on that because I was going to say it first. I wasn't going to say it first, but I was going to say that I've been more scared to go out and try because I didn't want to be judged. Because I'm not a good shot. I know that. And so I don't want to go out there and just completely miss. But I will say that, like, I've had to go out there and try. And I remember not too long ago, my dad and I went to a dove hunt. And the sun had just started to come out. And I was like, there's a dove right in front of me. First dove of the morning. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get it. And I got it. And I was too scared. I wasn't going to get it. But I was like, I'm just going to shoot it. And I got it. And I was like, you know what? It wasn't that bad. And even if I did miss, they would just be like, it's okay. Next one's yours. So I think that you just have to try and not be scared. And so.
But also have those close friends because like I know like having a sister, like we're able to like encourage each other. And that helps so much. And then like you're able to talk about it and talk about your fails or your successes. And it helps so much and just like feeling that love and encouragement. So.
I actually experienced this last night during clay shooting. I was the first one to try out of us, and I missed. And of course, I felt kind of silly, like, gosh. But I put that pressure on myself. You were helping me, but you didn't scoff or, oh my gosh, can't believe you didn't do it. You know, it was just encouraging. Yeah. You have to get out there and try it. Yeah. There's no room for intimidation these days, right?
It's great to talk about newcomers, and there are so many resources out there, and it just takes a few Google searches, I think, to find a hunting club or gun club or conservation group near you to locate a program that can help you get started, or a mentor that can help you make your first trip afield. But what I also want to touch on is the ladies that have maybe gone out and had a bad experience, and maybe that's holding them back. And I really want to encourage people who are listening, if you've had a bad experience, try again. Don't let one maybe bad experience, maybe you felt judged, maybe you felt you didn't, stack up with the people around you, but it's okay.
That's really
Do it again.
It's always a great reminder, because you have people who hunt professionally, that is their profession, or just avid hunters, and everybody has a bad day. We do our best, we put in the practice, we put in the training to make sure we're ethical and we're doing a good job, but like we said, it's hunting, it's not killing. It doesn't always go like you plan. And so absolutely, if you have a bad day, pick yourself up by the bootstraps, find a good support group, and go again. Don't give up on it, and don't give up on yourself.
Well, that's, I think, a good segue to, a topic that comes up a lot in the round tables we host, the town halls we host, the interactions that we have with groups, and just even individual women sharing stories. And it kind of all centers around some women feeling a little bit nervous about entering a male-dominated, and it's still largely male-dominated, right? And some of the challenges that can present. And I want to introduce this topic with all sensitivity to the fact that the majority of the people in this community are fantastic, right? And the men in this community are wonderful and super supportive. All of my hunting mentors have been men. They've all been fabulous. But that doesn't mean that people don't have reservations or uncertainties around that. Questions around personal security, personal safety, things like that, because not every woman entering the realm has that support with their dad or their brother or their uncle or whatever it may be. Some of them are coming in straight up on their own and might be feeling a little nervous. So, when you think about all the people you've interacted with over your journey in hunting and conservation, and the scenarios you've been in, where you've been, just any tips at all to help ease some of that uncertainty in women's minds about how they can prepare themselves, how they can maybe just not feel so nervous about this.
I have something. I've had a guide before that was really pushing me to shoot before I felt comfortable, and before I felt like I was going to make an ethical harvest. And I had to stick my ground. I'd hold my ground and say, "Nope, I'm not shooting now." And I got a little grief for that, but it worked out great in the end. I found another animal, and I'm glad I did it, because I was set up on an animal at one point, and I didn't feel stable. I was moving around a lot, and I did not feel comfortable pulling the trigger, and I got a lot of grief about it. But don't be afraid to push back.
And I'll just say, good for you, Janet, because in that situation where you've got a guide pushing you, that would be difficult for most people to say, no, I'm just not comfortable. So congratulations for just saying no. Yeah.
I've worked in male-dominated fields my whole life. I've obviously, I think every woman's experienced some kind of, maybe negative or not positive experience in a male-dominated field in the past. But hunting is new to me, so in this industry, I've had very positive experiences. I think the one thing that just stands out to me, when I was at the FTW, I had the opportunity to take a shot that I didn't take, and I was so supported and encouraged. And I think I walked up to my guide after, and I just was vulnerable with him. That was a very emotional experience, and we had a moment outside of everybody else, being around us. And I was, close to tears, and he walked me through, processing that moment. And I think my advice would honestly be, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I think that a lot of women believe that they'll be perceived as weak when they're vulnerable. And I think there's so much strength in that vulnerability and authenticity and being true to who you are and being raw and real, right? So that's my piece of advice.
I guess one other thing to chime in there, and I agree with you completely. I have been fortunate enough to have overall very positive experiences in the field. But as we've said, women are newer to this space. And so there is an aspect of relying on each other and relying on the men already in the field to help keep people accountable. We say this in a whole lot of other areas of the world, but if you see something, say something. If you see something that doesn't seem right, if you see someone being pressured, if you see someone being disrespected, and you have a space in this field already, it is your responsibility and obligation to step up and say something. And I have been fortunate to be around people who have done that for me. And so, thank you to those people, but a call to action for everybody else. We can continue to support each other.
I also have had very good experiences in this injury, so I don't have any bad things to even say, but I just would say, as with any time, go with your instincts. I mean, your instincts will tell you when the hairs in the back of your neck stand up, listen to them. And other than that, and like you said, stand together but basically everything everybody else said, so I'm not going to bore everybody.
Okay, that's really, really good advice. And that's really. I'm a big believer in paying attention to the gut check for sure. Yeah, your spidey senses will tell you often what you need to know. Yeah. I know we're pushing up a little bit here on the end of our time for this panel. So I really would love to hear from all of you what your thoughts are on the future of hunting and, where you see the future of hunting going and some of the challenges that you perceive there are to that. If you can kind of capture those two things in your answers, that would be awesome. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
So I know when we talk about hunting long term, it's something that's only going, it's important, but it's only going to stay around if we can keep it supported. And not to steal the correct answer from the textbook or anything, but a lot of times we talk about recruitment, retention, and reactivation. And personally, where I fit into that, I feel like is in the recruitment and, working with youth, working with these younger folks and getting them opportunities and making sure that to the best of my ability, they're having good experiences in the field. And it's something that they want to continue to grow with. They want to teach to their family. They want to talk to their friends about it. For me, that's how I feel I fit into making sure that hunting stays an opportunity for us long term.
I think also, and recruitment would be wonderful if you could get them, but I also just think having that middle 80% understand. If you hear somebody that questions, anybody that's willing to listen, share what you know about it, share what you've learned through it, because we have to keep pushing on it. I do have to say, I see a turn coming in the hunting world. We were always on the defense before, I think, and still are a little bit to the point of the people who do not understand and are trying to put a stop to all this. But I see hunters coming together now. I see them working together because hunters in general want to be in the woods. They don't want to be doing some legislation. They don't want to be doing all this stuff. They just want to be left alone and be in the woods or at a fishing hole. So it's against everything that most of them really want to do. So, but I see that they're realizing that the wildlife and their livelihoods, or not maybe livelihoods, but their way of life is under threat. So they're starting to band together and take action and do what needs to be done to help people understand. Because we don't need everyone to be a hunter. We just need everyone to understand why it is so important.
I think that comes down to education and open conversation. And I do have a perspective of it, and coming from a family that truly did not understand the decisions that I was making. And I think, just in my own family, being able to have conversations and say, I'm doing this for these reasons, and to have them be able to look at me and say, maybe I don't fully understand, but I love you and I'm going to listen to you anyway, has been really eye-opening, because there is such a gap, right? And we're working to bridge that gap and kind of eliminate this divisiveness, because it's not one side versus another, right? We're all working towards a common goal of conservation. I think there's just not an understanding. And we talked a little bit about how hunters are some of the greatest proponents for conservation out there. And I think that gets missed on the other side of the coin. I don't think that's understood. And so I think education, people who are willing to be stewards and put themselves out there and say, this is why we need to understand why hunting is important, is crucial.
I agree with that. I was going to say we have to be advocates, obviously. If we love something, you want to take care of it so it'll continue to be as it is. And as much as there are some aspects of social media that I do not like, I think it's important to spread the message and just, again, it's not always about killing or posing with a trophy or what have you. There are other ways to send a message to social media, especially for y'all. It's something that's very important to your generation, but it gets the word out there in a different way to people who may not have wanted to have that conversation or listen or hear or what have you. So on a little scale, I think that is a step we can do.
I think Grayson said it perfectly. It's education, information, speaking openly. I had misconceptions or misunderstandings of what hunting actually was, even though my husband and children hunted and I had no problem with it. I've really enjoyed having great conversations with people about, I'm not trying to convince them, like you said, to be a hunter. Not everyone needs to be a hunter, but I think people need to understand and realize the benefits for conservation and that it causes less suffering in animals than more. And I just think that's huge. And I think especially coming from women being hunters, I think people will be more open and listen to that.
I'll say that I've learned a lot from Texas Brigades, and that coming here to these things too, that there's a bunch of people like in the older generations that want to help, and that not, but like I've seen it because we're a new generation, and it's just like that we need to know that there's more to just going out there and hunting, that you have to, because there's over hunting and there's under hunting, and like you have to keep the population, you have to conserve it, and that there's people that want to teach us, and that if we don't know, then the populations are going to go down or they're going to go up, and it's just like you have to learn. And there's people that are willing to learn, and our generation doesn't know a lot of it, but there's people here, and we have to get the word out to people our age that there are people wanting to help us. So
the old people. Compared to 14, yes.
I will say, I guess I want to add to the discussion that without hunting, the greatest sort of source of funding for wildlife conservation and oftentimes also habitat protection and redevelopment would be gone. And that's not something that people that are opposed to hunting want to discuss. They think that somehow magically populations are going to manage themselves. That's not the case. There was a time when that happened in North America, I believe, but that time also didn't involve large population centers of people. So I think we have to play that role in conserving and managing populations. And I'm glad that there's other people like me out there who want to do that. So
that's really good. And I know that there are some really active groups of hunters coming together to help make some changes. Sue, you touched on that, and I maybe, like, we've got a mic handy. I'd like to just let the listeners know, off the top of my head, I can think of howl.org, CRWM, Blood Origins. What are some others that I'm overlooking that people can start to follow and look at if they want to see kind of the calls to action that we see from these groups to get your voice out and heard in the face of the massive opposition that some states are currently facing on a ballot level, on a very real and present time frame?
I actually don't know any other than what the ones you mentioned.
Okay.
But I do want to say places like Howell make it so easy to take action. You know, because it's overwhelming when you hear something's happening in Washington State or Colorado or whatever, to write all your representatives and do all this. It takes a ton of research and then understanding the bill. But when you can go to Howell and you put in your address and everything, and they right there tell you what the bill tells you about, and if you want to take action and support it or deny it, whatever, they will send the letters to the people they need to go to for your state, and they're all a little different, and you can add your own, and they encourage you to add your little bit in there too. But they make it easy, and I think that's the key, is because we're all busy. We all have such busy, crazy lives, and you don't have time to research every little thing. So I just highly suggest you get involved in that. They just send an email, and when something's happening, hey, if you want to take action in that one, you can. Yeah. But anyway, sorry.
Okay. Can anybody else think of it? I know I'm overlooking, but I just can't think.
I'm a huge fan of blood origins.
Yeah.
So that would have been my suggestion.
Right. Okay. Just to wrap things up, so, I opened by telling everybody that we're at the Warren Ranch in beautiful Texas attending the 2024 HuntFish Podcast Summit. And I'm really proud that the Wild Sheep Foundation and Women Hunt, our program, are the title sponsors. And, we have 3 alumni here from the classes of 21, 22, and 23. You heard themselves introduce themselves earlier. But we have other women here who are not alumni or members of the program, but have had the chance to meet us and talk to us and hear a little bit about what we do. And so, I was encouraged to ask this question, so I'm asking it. What are your observations about the program? And do you feel like there's something that we could do that you think would be of benefit?
So again, with having not gone to the program, I'm not one of the alumni, it sounds like a fantastic program. And like we've talked about so far, it's hitting all the marks that we've discussed today. It's supporting women. It sounds like you have female mentors involved in it and also supportive male mentors in the group. Talking to the people who have come through the program, it sounds like it was very valuable to each of you in your own personal way. And I'm a little jealous. It sounds like it was a great experience.
I can attest to that. I'm jealous too. But I think what I notice most is community. I mean, I have a husband who can help me through all this if I decide to hunt, but I just still think there is something to be said for having women in your corner and experiencing things in the same way, and the gun might not fit you just right. All those things that women experience. So I love the community. I love the bond you got. Even though you're from different classes, there's that bond, and I just think that's really special. And and I've seen it before in other women hunting organizations as well. So I think that's really special, and I'm happy just to be here and witness it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I second that. Like, the community of empowerment seems really strong and just so good and loving, and I think that's just like a part of God that I see in all of you women, especially that are part of that, and just the bond, and it seems so special, and I hope to one day be a part of it. So
I don't know much about it, but hopefully that I can learn more before we leave. So, yeah, I second all of what y'all said.
You have to be 21, so you've got time to learn about it.
All right, well then, let's just close out then. I'll say thank you to all of you for sitting down to have this discussion, and for everything that each of you are doing for your own personal development and growth, and helping others, and most importantly for our wildlife conservation. And for our female listeners out there, it's 100% true. There's a million resources and more every day out there to support any of you thinking about dipping your toe into this world, or if you're already in it and you just want to make more connections and learn more, there's lots of great NGOs, nonprofits, profits, individuals out there that are passionate about supporting the entry of women into hunting and conservation. And there's a whole wide community out there to help you. And podcasts are another really great resource. So for everybody listening, jump in, come join us. Thanks, everybody.